Okay, I am ready. Let's do it. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me, guys. I am very excited to be back with Newgrounds Fest panel. Shoot, was this like my third or fourth time doing one of these? And interviews. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it. I love it so much. For sure. So what's going on, everyone? As Annie said, I am Voices by Corey. You guys may know me from a lot of my stuff on Newgrounds. I've gotten to voice a lot of cool characters over the years. Like Pico, of course, gotten to voice him in a lot of animations. Most notably, Bob Velsib who was just here in his panel, Senior Palo Spooky Month. But tonight, I am here to do a nice little voiceover panel for you guys, helping you out with your auditions. Because a lot of people who are trying to get into voice acting, they don't know where to start, how to get things going, and they struggle when it comes to figuring out how to put together a good audition. And the main thing about voice acting, what a lot of people won't tell you, is the main job of voice acting is just auditioning. If you're not auditioning, you're not giving yourself the chance to land roles. So the full-time job of voice acting is auditioning relentlessly. Even if you're just going out and putting out one audition a day, you do that for an entire year. You put out 365 auditions, 366 if it's a leap year. And the more opportunities, or the more times that you audition, the more opportunities you're presenting yourself. So you have to have you have to have that ability to audition well enough to make you stand out amongst all the other voice actors who are trying their hand at voice acting. And with the pandemic that happened, back in 2020, it kind of opened the door for everyone to try their hand at voice acting. Like, I can't go to work. I'm stuck at home. What's something that I want to do? Hey, voice acting sounds really cool. Why don't I try that? So you have a lot of people who are trying to do remote voiceover. And now there are so many people trying their hand at voiceover, and you want to get that upper hand over those other people auditioning. So that's what this panel is going to be about tonight. It's going to be giving you tips and advice on how to improve your auditions and giving you the tools that will ultimately help you stand out amongst everyone else auditioning. And I got to preface this whole panel. The advice that I'm giving you tonight isn't going to guarantee that you're going to land every single role you audition for, because that is so unlikely. You're probably going to audition for so many roles in your life, and you'll probably be cast in maybe 5% of them. It's just the name of the game. And like I said, there's so many people who are trying to become a voice actor now and who do it remotely. The pool is just so massive now. So with that many people, you want to try to put an audition together that's going to make you stand out and make you be put on the short list and actually considered for a role. So these are like these tips I'm going to give you. I hope that they resonate with you and allow you to really think and pan out how you're going to construct your auditions. So what we're going to use tonight for this panel is a new animated series that's going to be coming out. It's called Vicky the Shotgun Witch. If you guys can see it, I'm screen sharing it. And I chose to use this casting call because it is actually from a fellow Newgrounder who goes by the name of Jack Corpin. And it's actually their it's going to be an animated series from their webcomic series. You can actually go look at their comics, and they're really freaking cool. So I figured let's go over a casting call, looks like it's gonna be a really freaking cool indie animation. And on top of that, show support for a fellow Newgrounder. So, the first step, and you're going to see there's 9 steps that I like to follow when I'm going into auditioning. And you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of steps just for auditioning. But every single step is really important, and it really transforms your reads in, like, from a simple just reading off the script to actually performing. And that's what you're trying to do as a voice actor. You're trying to perform and bring a performance to life. Anybody can read. Anybody can do a voice. Acting and performing is what's going to set you above and beyond everybody else who's performing. Rob Paulson, one of the best voice actors out there. Voice of Yakko, Pinky, Carl Weezer. He says, he has a saying, it says, when it comes to voice acting, it's little v, big A, meaning that the acting is the most important concept and the voice is secondary. If you don't know how to act, you're going to struggle, okay? So, like a little bit of advice, before you even try to consider being a voice actor, take some acting courses. Do whatever you can to build up your acting repertoire, because if you don't do that, you're just going to be another person who's reading off of a script, and you won't get cast, and it's going to be very demoralizing. So, that's like your first real bit of advice. That's not step 1, but that's a real good bit of advice. So, diving into your casting calls and the auditioning process. Step 1, you're going to go through the casting call, and you're going to take a look at the characters that resonate with you and the voices that you're capable of doing, or roles that you can absolutely nail 100% of the time. So, let's take a look at Vicky the Shotgun Witch, okay? Scroll down, and this website right here is called Casting Call Club. If you've never heard of it, now you do. castingcallclub.com, and it's a bunch of free and unpaid and paid jobs. It's very easy to use. Like you'll see, they have character descriptions, they'll have updates, and they have like little brief synopsises of what the project's about. Gives you everything you need, and it's an ongoing casting call website. Plenty of opportunities on here. So it's a great place to start if you're looking to start off in your voice acting career. So I'm going to start looking through the characters. You got Vicky Maxim, main character, female. I can't do that. So I'm going to go on to the next one. Amy Astertus, I think? Another female character. I can't do that. Mitch Maxim. There you go. Here's a male character. So this is a character that I know I'm going to do, just simply because it's a male character. Next one, Laszlo Maxim, another male character. He looks to be an older character, and you see that he's a doctor medic and Vicky and Mitch's father. So he's a fatherly character. So yeah, I can do that. And Mitch is Vicky's brother and the son of Laszlo. So that's another character I can do. I know it's in my wheelhouse. And you just start going through the casting call really quick, and you know which characters you're going to audition for when you get into this, okay? So, your second step, once you know who you're going to be auditioning for, your second step is you're going to read through the audition lines cold. You're going to read them slowly and enunciate each word, okay? So, what you're doing here is giving your mind a little warm-up and your tongue a warm-up, and it's giving you the chance to process the lines and prepare for your actual reads, okay? You're going to read these very monotone-like, and you're not going to try to put any emotion into your read, all right? Like I said, it's just a way to basically train your brain and get ready for the actual audition itself. So I'm going to be utilizing Mitch for the panel tonight, just because it's kind of like right in my wheelhouse for him. I have not done my auditions for these. I have been working on, I've been going through this whole process, making sure I get the right voice and performance down. I did that for another show I auditioned for, and it landed me the role. So I'm definitely going to do this process as much as I possibly can, so I can put a great audition together for these characters. So I'm just going to look at the first line right here. There's 3 audition lines that they want you to use. Sometimes with the casting calls, they'll only have 1 audition line, and you do your best with it. And sometimes they will give you lead-ins and directions on how they want the character to sound or what they're feeling in the scene. But for this casting call, they don't. It's just the line. So, like I said, with step 2, the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to read through the entire line, monotone, straight through. So, this is what I'm going to do. Mitch explaining. Oh, no, never. Sorry, that's actually what's going on. They do have it. See, I didn't pay attention. So here we go. Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. You can blow away the competition all day. But the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Look, just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later. So, as you can hear, I'm taking my time reading out the line. And I know it sounds funny because if you can see my mouth moving, I'm like really over, and then like I'm really moving my lips and I'm opening up my mouth, really focusing on getting things prepared and ready and getting my mouth and tongue ready for the read. It sounds weird, but yeah, I'm getting my mouth, I'm loosening up the muscles in my mouth so I'm not fumbling over my words, and I present a clear read, and I'm not mush mouthing or jumbling words together. So yeah, you definitely want to take that time to do that for every single audition, for every audition line. That way you're ready to go. So the third step, after you're done reading the lines, you want to take the time to divulge through the casting call. Read the plot, backstory, character breakdowns, gather the tone of the project, find out everything you need to know about this project before you get in to your audition takes. And that's a big thing because people won't take the time to really know what their project's about. And knowing the project is ultimately going to help you shape how you deliver lines for a performance for a character, because there might be a certain aspect of the project where you're like, oh man, that knowing that could ultimately affect this character. Maybe I should have some undertones of that affecting my character in my audition takes. So knowing the whole project or just the information that they can provide you is a game changer. And if their casting call doesn't have a lot of information, don't be afraid to reach out to the casting director or the director themselves and say, hey, I got a couple questions about your project before I audition. Can you fill me in with some information? And they'll either tell you to F off because they don't want to divulge secrets, or they'll say, yeah, absolutely. So your character deals with this. They tie in really close to this part of the story. Okay, cool. Thank you. So try to gather as much information as you can. So I scrolled back up to the project overview of Vicky the Shotgun Witch, and it's very, very simplistic. Really not a whole lot of stuff to know about it, but we'll go through it really quick. The surface of Earth locked in a Mad Max power slide, 1998, style turf war between an assortment of unholy species and factions. Humanity long gone, taken with the rapture. Here you will find Vicky, a headstrong witch with no magic and a whole lot of bullets. With her, violence is always the answer. However, deep in the pits of hell, evolved away from sin and brimstones, exists a futuristic supercity named Helsia, the home of a goofy young adult pale imp named Amy. Due to a series of uncontrollable events, Amy finds herself ripped away from home with nothing but clues and the help of Vicky to get back home. Vicky is a current running comic, and we are looking to expand its horizons with animated content to promote the source material. And then it talks about the different avenues. So they're talking about making a video game, animations and animatics, different styles of memes. And then it says our goal is to bring the universe to life and tell Vicky's story to the world. Voice actors are crucial to any project's life, and we look forward to working with you. So it just gives a quick synopsis. So it doesn't really divulge a whole lot of information, but through that, we know that this takes place in the future. It takes place after the rapture from what it says. It says it takes place deep in the pits of hell, but it's evolved away from sin and brimstone, and what exists is a futuristic super city. So it does take place in hell, so we do have this kind of idea of where the setting is, which is very crucial to a lot of performances, because when we start piecing our audition lines together, I like to create settings. So knowing the fact that we know the setting of the story and how it's going to take place is huge and crucial. So, third step. Oh, no. Fourth step, sorry. We're going to read you're going to read the character descriptions. After reading the synopsis, you're going to read the character descriptions, the personality traits, their identity traits. And after that, we go into creating a voice. So let's go right back down to Mitch, okay? And for Mitch, it says Mitch is one of the few existing male witches, not a warlock. He's a witch. He's very serious and by the book, trying to keep his little sister Vicky out of too much trouble. Other than his sister, the only other thing he cares about is his car, Jenny. So, and then it says find more info here, and if you click on that, it actually takes you to the webcomics that they've put together so far about Vicky, which is really cool. So you can actually take a look at the existing content, and that can help you feel your performance as well. So with Mitch, we get a nice little view of what he looks like. Very, very beefy, muscular, ponytail. We know that he loves his car, so he's probably a muscle car guy. One of the things that I can just ultimately tell is he's going to have a medium to lower range voice just because of what looks like. He looks like a tall guy too, but the way he's built, it has the form of what would be a medium to low, gritty formed voice. So I could ultimately use my natural voice for this if I really wanted to. And that's ultimately what I've been tying into, like working this character and like structuring my performance. I've just basically been using my natural voice, but like dropping it a little bit and kind of giving a little bit of like, yeah, that muscle dude attitude vibe. Like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Mitch. I love my car, Jenny. Oh, I can tell you anything you want to know about Jenny, man. She's beautiful. I clean her twice a week, give her wax and all that good. It just kind of gives this persona. And knowing that he's one of the few existing male witches left in this realm, maybe he has this little stigma about himself, like he's important because he's one of the last male witches. So that's something that you can kind of piece together. And you may not even get a full-on character description. Sometimes you'll just get, they're a male, they're 25 years old, they have a gruff voice. Okay, I'll work with that. So yeah, you want to try to use as much material, and if you don't have as much material, that's what we're gonna get into with the next part of this panel. All right, so the fourth step was reading the character descriptions and kind of start building a voice around it. And just because, like, once you read the description, you start building the voice. Like I said, I'm gonna have a voice that's a little bit deeper and gruffier, and just like, yeah, man, what's up? Yeah, my name is Mitch Maxim. I love my car, and my sister Vicky, man, she's just a pain in the ass. The voice doesn't have to remain that way, right? It's a starting point. It's a foundation. We're gonna build around it, and if it doesn't work, you change it up and you switch it up and you see what does work. Okay, so the fifth step. When we're creating the voice, it's based off of 3 dynamics: speed, volume, and range. Okay, based off of those, you can add other traits like accents, stutters, or any other quirks that pertain to a character. Don't be afraid to play with different voices before trying to audition. Shape it to what you want it to be. And even if you're deep into the audition and you start to not like it, play around with it. So, like I said, the 3 dynamics of creating a voice. It's speed, how fast your character talks, how slow they talk. So when I'm looking at Mitch seems just like kind of one of those laid back dudes. So especially, when he's trying to talk down to his sister, like we look at the audition line like, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. Talking very slow, but maybe when he's talking about his car, Jenny, he gets very excited, so maybe he picks up the pace a little bit. Like, man, you should have seen how fast I was going down the street the other day with Jenny. Man, I was going 150 miles per hour. And like just talking about his car gets him excited, and he starts talking a little bit quicker. So that changes all the time. The volume is how loud they talk. Do they talk really softly, so you have to talk like into your mic? Or do they talk loud? And they're very verbose. And it's a characteristic of them. You have to know that about your character. But like for Mitch, I see him as kind of like, maybe like a middle of the road type of guy. It's like, yeah, not too deep, not too soft, not too loud. He's just mellow, man. Yeah. And then the last dynamic is range. So, which is, are they going to be a high voice? Are they going to be a low voice? And like I said, I look at Mitch and I'm picturing a medium to low range. And just because they are in that range that you start off with, doesn't mean they're going to be there the entire time. I mean, a quick example, Bob Velsa in Spooky Month. If you've seen the episode that I voiced Bob in, you know that Bob has a deep, very gruff voice. But there's a scene where he gets lemon squirted in his eye, and his scream is super like, ah! It's super high-pitched. So the voices aren't always going to stay in those ranges that you set them to be at. Especially when you start working with different emotions, people's voices change with emotions. So don't be afraid to have your natural range, but don't be afraid to work outside of that natural range. Because if you're just trying to stay in a natural range, it's just going to sound like your performance is forced, and it looks like you have no control over your voice. And that's something you don't want to show off to casting directors. You want to show them that you have range and you're able to control your voice in a way that if they need you to go to a certain length, you can, right? So the sixth step, you're gonna be going to your audition lines and performing them finally, okay? So now we're at this point in the creation process of building the voice, reading through it, and starting to ultimately form the audition takes that we want to submit, okay? So like I said, your sixth step is going to the audition lines, performing a straight read-through with the voice you've chosen as if you're just reading the script. And like I said, seems kind of stupid to say that. We're just reading the script, but at the same time, it's the first step of building your performance into a completely different performance. I know I said don't read the script, perform the script, but this is the first step of making it work. So we're gonna go into this first line that we just did, and I'm just gonna read through it as if I'm reading and not performing, and I'm gonna be doing the voice that I have in mind for Mitch. Okay, just so we get a base and a foundation. Just like when we're building the voice, we're starting off with that base and foundation, and then we're gonna work it up into something that we truly love and enjoy. So, let's go into the line. Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. You can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Look, just humor Dad and I'll cook some spider stew later. Seems very bland and boring, right? And here's the thing. There's a lot of voice actors who will say, that was a great take, let me send it in. And the casting director hears it, and they get crossed off the list right away. Now, I am putting together an audio drama right now, and I just did my first casting call for it. And I don't want to sound mean, but there were a lot of voice actors who send in auditions like that. And you're just like, oh, man, I know that they can do something better than that. But it just sounded like they were reading from the script. And that's not what we're looking for. From like, especially me as a voice actor, I want to put together a performance where you're like, oh, shit, I can feel that. I can feel the emotion that they're portraying in this performance. So you don't want to just read it once and submit it and not even try to work on it, because it doesn't work well. And at the same time, it kind of leaves a bad taste in some casting director's mouth, because say you audition for another project of theirs later on, like, oh man, I remember that guy. He had like no personality. No, I'm not even going to listen to his audition. And that's the last thing you want. You don't want people to write you off just because of one bad performance a long time ago. So, we do the first read. It sounds shit. It doesn't sound good. It just sounds like I'm reading from the script. But now we have a foundation to build off of, right? We have a good idea of how we can adjust it. Just from myself, I know where I can adjust things and make it sound a little bit better. And that's what the seventh step is. Okay, the seventh step is taking a look at the emotion note for the line, read the line again with the emotion presented. Now, there's going to be times where the casting call doesn't give you an emotional read or emotional lead-in. So you kind of just have to read, like, that's why we also like to read the lines first and foremost, monotone, and then we read it again with the voice in mind. That way, when we read it through, we can kind of paint what's going on in the scene and an emotion standpoint, right? So let's look at this part right here. It says Mitch explaining to Vicky why they have issues with her fighting ability. Okay, well, that's not really an emotional lead-in, but it is a direction, okay? Mitch is explaining to Vicky why they have issues with her fighting ability. Now, we've already read the line twice. We see that Vic is explaining things to her, and then at this part, it says reassures Vicky. So maybe Vicky's a little bit of a hothead when she comes to fight, or maybe it's just lacking in skill, and she needs more practice and work. And her being a hothead and a lack of her experience as a fighter, it tends to be a recipe for disaster, and it's not good. So maybe we can piece together in this line delivery that Mitch is not, he doesn't want to hurt his sister's feelings. It's his sister. He wants to support her and comfort her, but at the same time, he has to be straightforward with her, right? He doesn't want to mislead her and say, "Oh, no, yeah, you're good, Vicky." And like we see that with the very beginning. He goes like Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. And then he goes into what they really doubt. It's your teamwork we don't trust, right? So we kind of get a sense of what's going on already with just this line in the setting. So the emotion that I would kind of play into it is comforting, but also hesitant in a way. So, and I'll probably just do this second take, in a more comforting way, right? So like I said, I'm reading through this and I see like he's trying to be comforting to Vicky, but he's also trying to, be honest with her, and it might be, a little bit more hesitant. So, but let's just go with a more comforting read this time, right? And see how that ultimately changes when we're putting an emotional emphasis on a read. So, get some water. You always want to make sure your vocal cords are ready. So let's get into this. We're going to do a second take, or a second read, not a take, a second read of this line with a more comforting feel to it. Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. You can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Look, just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later. Do you feel how there's like a little bit of a change in the read and the performance there from that very first take I did, where it's just a straight read-through? With that second take, I'm trying to put emphasis on certain words. I'm trying to pick up the cadence, which is your speed in your delivery of the line. He's trying to be it was more so comforting. Like the tone of it was very comforting and just like reassuring Vicky that things are going to be fine. Like, don't worry. Like, yeah, right now it kind of sucks, but it'll be better later on. Like, don't worry about it. So, like I said, we start off with that foundation, and now we've like put up the walls, the structure. We're starting to put the structure together of what would ultimately be our final take and final read. So now that we've got 2 reads down, we move on to the next step, which is your 8th step. Now that we've read the line twice, think about a scenario taking place within the audition line. Okay, sometimes the scenario is given to you, like it says right here. Mitch is explaining to Vicky why they have issues with her fighting ability, right? But there's also times where they don't give you anything, like I've said. And if they don't give you that scenario, you can create the scenario based off the emotion of the line. You can also base it off of a character's description or plot. So, like I said, we know that he's very serious and by the book. So maybe he's a little stern with our next read. Like maybe we can do our next read with him being a little bit more stern. Even though he's comforting, he's being very stern about it. He's being very direct with his sister. He's not going to lie to her face. He's very serious. He's by the book. So why the hell is he going to be very like, why would he be super comforting and like, oh, no, it's okay. No, he's going to be very serious with her and direct and be like straight to his sister. Why would he lie to his sister's face, right? So, building a scene for a delivery is an acting method, which I don't want to get into because that'll take another whole hour. But I do teach that on the side. So if anyone wants to learn about that acting technique, I can teach you that. But what we can do for this next part is start building a scenario of what's going on around us, right? We already kind of have an idea, just based off of the description of what's going on here. Mitch explaining to Vicky why they have issues with her fighting ability. So maybe they just had a fight, and Mitch and Laszlo, their dad, was in the fight, or maybe it was just Mitch and maybe a few other people, and they're fighting, and Vicky comes in and just messes everything up, and they end up losing the fight, and everyone's all pissed off at Vicky, and Mitch has to be the one to pull her aside and say, look, this is why things don't work. It's, you have good fighting capabilities, but when it comes to fighting as a team, you suck, and we don't trust you. So that's probably like a little scenario that you can create. Don't be afraid to create these scenarios, because when you create a scenario, it gives you something to work with. It allows you to have a playing field with your performance. So think about who Mitch is talking to in this scene. He's talking to his sister. What happened? Maybe there was a fight, there was a skirmish, and it was a team fight. And if they worked together, they would have won, but Vicky didn't work together as a team, and it messed it up for them. And we think about like the relationship that Mitch has with his sister. We think about his personality. We can think about what time of day it is and start building this whole scenario. So it says that he could cook a spider stew later. So maybe it's the evening. And you know, so like the time of day, it's the evening. Maybe they're kind of dealing with like bumps and bruises, you know, and like maybe while Mitch is talking to Vicky, he's tending to his own wound. Like say he got punched in the cheek, and he has like a freaking swollen cheek. And maybe he has like some ice to his face, and as he's delivering lines, he's like, kind of winces a little bit. You know, you can create this little scenario that's going on and implement that into your audition. So when the casting director is listening, like, oh, I like that. That was cool. So the little scenario that I'm creating right now for myself, they're back at home. They're sitting in their kitchen area, maybe sitting at the dining room table. Mitch got punched in the eye, so he has an ice pack to his eye to keep the swelling down. And he's being straightforward and direct with his sister, but he's also being sympathetic and compassionate, because it bothers Vicky that they don't trust her. You know, they maybe they yelled at her and like, oh, you ruined it for us. We lost the fight because of you, and she's upset about that. So Mitch, being a brother to her, who's also very serious and straightforward to the book, he's not going to BS her. He's going to give it to her like it is. And, you know, he may not like to do that because it's a sister, but that's his moral code. He's very serious and straight to the book, but maybe there's some hesitancy when it comes to his sister. So now that we kind of have this whole idea put together, that can feed into how we're ultimately going to read this line. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and do another read. Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. You know, you can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Look, just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later. Okay? It's definitely different than what we did for the first two takes, right? There's a little bit more. There's a little bit more energy. There's a little bit more character to it, and to me, that's not even my best take. That's just a sample of what I could ultimately work with from the beginning. Like, we take little things and we apply that into the read. It's going to start making it stand out more and show that there's more of a performance, and we're not just reading and showing emotion, right? We want to incorporate things that make it sound different, okay? Now, we move on to what would be the ninth and final step. We see I don't know why I said third time. It's basically trying it for a fourth time, right? We're reading it for a fourth time with everything we've discovered about our character and the reads and how we can work with it. And then we further transform it And then after, we think about how we can evolve it even more until we're like, you know what? This could be a really good take. I like where this is going. Let me actually try to do my takes. And sometimes you can do it. Like you can basically do this in 2 reads if you really want to. Like if you really connect with a character. So knowing what I know now, how I've already started, how I've got like my foundation set, my walls are set up. I've started putting in my ceiling. Now I'm starting to go onto that second floor. I want to evolve it a little bit more. Okay, so let me try this line a little bit more. Okay. Look, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. Honestly, it's your teamwork we don't trust. Oh, God. Ugh. You know, you can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Look, just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later. Totally different from the last read, right? In that read, I'm being more direct with her. I'm not sugarcoating things. Like, look, this is what's going on, but at the same time, I'm nursing my battle when I got punched. Like, shoot, that hurts. You're incorporating all these little things in there to make it sound a little bit better and stand out. Because there might be people who just go like, you know, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. Yeah, like they'll put in that effort and that sound that would be needed for that read. But if you're twisting it a little bit more and adding little things in there that give it a little bit more flair, that's what's going to be really cool. And this is going to be like my final point. And I want to actually try the next line because I got some time. I'll do the same process for this next line. Okay. But the last thing I want to mention with your auditions is to have fun with them and add some extra flair to it. Add some improv element to it. If you're not really good at improv, it's not the end of the world. I'm not saying improv a whole line before you get into an actual read, but there's different terminology for it. But when I was taught it, it was called pre-life, post-life. And this was a term given to me by Daniel Ross, who's the voice of Donald Duck and many other characters. He told me pre-life and post-life ultimately gives you more freedom and it gives you more freedom to play around with the read and the performance all together. So what your pre-life is just a little improv that you would say at the beginning of your delivery, which leads into the actual audition line. And then your post-life is improv line that you would add at the end of the audition line. It doesn't have to be long, and it can be really one word if you wanted to. But what it does, it feeds into how you ultimately play with the audition take. So for me, I always try to incorporate some pre-life. I always try to, because that, in a sense, gives me more lead in to how I'm going to read the line. It gives me an idea of how I'm going to lead in with emotion, how I'm going to play out that whole scenario. And I like to include post-life also, kind of like a little cherry on the top. And like I said, it can be one word, it can be a sentence if you want to, but don't let it be a full-on paragraph, because that's not what the casting director wants. Now, if you see in your casting call, because that's a very important thing when you're going through your casting calls, read through the directions, okay? On casting call, it's kind of like just free game. But then you're going to get some casting calls that are off-site. They're through Google Docs or forms, and they have specific instructions for you on how they want you to audition, okay? And that's how you submit your lines, what format they want it in, how you read your lines. They'll say, hey, I want the format to be ABC format when you're auditioning. And you're like, what the hell is ABC format? ABC format means you read all the lines through once, and then if you're going to do a second take, then you read them again. So you do one take of all the lines, and then you do your second take of all the lines. Then they'll say, hey, I want it AA, BB, CC takes, which means they want the first line read twice, and then you'll move on to the second line, and then you'll read that multiple times, and then you'll go on to the third line and read it multiple times. So you want to pay attention to that stuff. And sometimes the casting directors won't even say, like, hey, don't improv lines, just read the lines that we've given to you. Or they won't even mention it, or they'll say, hey, have fun with it. But yeah, the audition lines are there, but improv, have fun, do whatever you want. And if they do give you if they do give you the ability to do that, I highly suggest that you incorporate that into your audition somehow. Because I can attest to it with my own casting call I had. Every audition, and I'm going to tell you this, there was only one person who actually included auditions with some improv in there and some pre-life and post-life. And it landed them a role. And it wasn't just because of that. It was because it brought the whole read to life in a way that I was like, oh, shoot. Wow, that was really good. And it was a different perspective of everything. Like, you're going to have so many people come in and say, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. 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 And it gets monotonous, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And the casting director is going to be like, oh, my gosh. I don't want to hear this line again, but I have to because I got 1,000 auditions I have to listen to. And say they get to your take, and you start off with, oh, my freaking eye hurts. Okay, listen, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. They're like, whoa, hold on, what was that? That's going to pique their interest. And it's going to make them want to pay attention to your read a little bit more. Just by throwing a little curveball at them and having something new at the beginning of your read is going to catch their attention. And like I said, the whole point of the audition process is to make yourself stand out amongst all the other people auditioning, right? We want our name to be put on that short list, and we want our name to be the one that they announce to the whole world, like, hey, Corey Levere is voicing Mitch Maxim and Vicky the Shotgun Witch. Right? That's what we want to happen. So doing all these little things is going to make you stand out amongst all the other voice actors. And like I said, pre-life is going to feed into your actual delivery. And it's going to add some extra energy. It's going to add to your performance and lead into an emotional delivery that maybe you weren't really expecting, but because of the way you did your pre-life, you're like, oh, let's go with that and see if that works. So, with that in mind, let's do another read where I'm incorporating some pre-life and post-life and see how that transitions a little bit more, right? So, let's get into it. Oh, man. Freaking eye hurts. Okay, look, Vic, it's not that we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust, okay? You can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Okay, calm down. But just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later. Sound good? All right, leave me alone. Right? It just sounds completely different. Like you can hear a different tone with Mitch in the delivery of the line. He's dealing with pain in his eye, but at the same time, he's trying to have this serious conversation with his sister, and he doesn't want to because his eye's hurting him. But she's like, oh, why don't they respect me? And he's like, well, you know why they don't respect you, Vic? It's because we don't trust your teamwork, you know? And that's another thing. You could probably do this a little bit more aggressive if you want to. Like, oh, my head freaking hurts, Vic. Look, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. Okay, you can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. Oh, man. Just humor Dad, and I'll cook some spider stew later, all right? Just give me some time to... Oh, God, leave me alone. You know, play around with it. Now, like, just between that and the last read, it's a completely different feel, and it's a totally different idea, right? It's ultimately something that could make the casting director go, oh, man, I wasn't expecting that. That was a cool delivery. Let me mark them down as somebody who I want to hear more from. And sometimes when you start working with big or when you start auditioning for bigger projects and they have 4,000 auditions, sometimes they won't even give you the light of day. They'll click your audition and they'll hear, Vic, we don't doubt, and they stop playing it. It sucks, but it is the nature of the beast. They probably won't give you the time of day. So, what are you going to do to make yourself stand out? Pre-life is going to give you that little advantage where it captures their attention. You're like, oh, okay, let me listen to this. Oh, wow, that was a really good read. Okay, let's listen to the next line. Oh, whoa, that was really good too. All right, so I'm going to do this really quick. I have about 15 minutes. I think I can go a little bit longer. So let's just kind of go through this really quick, okay? Okay, V, calm down. Stop throwing my wrenches. You can't expect everyone to match your wavelength. Sure, she's goofy, but it's charming in its own way. Being angry all the time isn't a good look, and it's starting to show its cracks. Things didn't go well. Don't take that out on Amy. She's trying her best. This is a new world for her. Maybe it's time for you to match someone else's wavelength. Okay? So, it's very straight through. That wouldn't get me cast, right? Very straight through. Boring. Okay, cross off the list immediately. So, let's take a look at what's happening. Mitch is pleading Amy's case. All right? Amy is, like I think they said, the ruler of this area that they're of this realm of hell that they're in. And it sounds like Vicky thinks that she's stupid, right? And in this scenario, Vicky's throwing Mitch's tools at him. So he's trying to have a talk with her, like a serious talk, and defend Amy. But at the same time, he's also in dodgeball. He's trying to dodge a wrench. So let's try it with like some urgency and kind of like, it's like urgency, like and aware of the situation. Okay, V, calm down. Would you stop throwing my wrenches? You can't expect everyone to match your wavelength. Sure, she's goofy, but it's charming in its own way. Being angry all the time isn't a good look, and it's starting to show its cracks. Things didn't go well. Don't take that out on Amy. She's trying her best. This is a new world for her. Maybe it's time for you to match someone else's wavelength. Okay, so at the beginning, I went more urgent, but then I kind of got a little bit more defensive and a little bit more like, not so fast type of energy. And that's another good tip. Don't be afraid to change up emotional changes. Don't be afraid to have multiple emotions in your read. Start off with one emotion, transition to another one, and then transition to another one or back to one of your original ones. Show them your acting range, right? The audition process is you showcasing your talent and what you can provide for the character and for the director. You may not be good for one character, you might be good for another character, and they'll make note of that. That's happened to me before. Like, hey, you weren't right for this character, but I think you'd be a really good fit for this character. It happens all the time. So, we did the 2 reads. So, I really want to do it where I'm more so kind of like nervous. Yeah, more so nervous and urgent for this first part where he's like, "Stop throwing my wrenches!" And then a kind of a collective, like he collects himself and he gets back into that serious by the book tone. But he's also like, no. He's telling Vicky off a little bit. So let's try it this way. Okay, V, calm down. Whoa, stop throwing my wrenches. You can't expect everyone to match your wavelength. Sure, she's goofy, but it's charming in its own way. Being angry all the time isn't a good look, and it's starting to show its cracks. Things didn't go well, so don't take that out on Amy. She's trying her best. This is a new world for her. Maybe it's time for you to match someone else's wavelength. See how it's a little bit more different than that first take? There's a little bit more aggression there, a little bit more direct and more stern, and that's what we're trying to impact. Now, I'm going to do another read, but I'm going to add some pre-life and some stuff in between. And I'm going to mess with my emphasis of words and my cadence. don't be afraid to work with all of these things to give you a very unique sounding take, right? Whoa! Holy cow, that one almost got my head. Okay, V, calm down. Hey! Would you stop throwing my wrenches? You're gonna hit Jenny! Look, V, you can't expect everyone to match your wavelength. Okay, sure, she's goofy, but it's charming in its own way. Being angry all the time isn't a good look, and it's starting to show its cracks. Look, I know things didn't go well, but don't take that out on Amy. She's trying her best. And this is a new world for her. Maybe it's time for you to match someone else's wavelength. Did you ever think of that? I was trying to think of something for the post live, but I couldn't think of anything. Sometimes you don't have to incorporate the post live, but you see how adding just those little tidbits, like scatter them in there and changing up the dialogue a little bit, it gave it this little personality that may not ultimately be there with every other voice actor. And remember, especially with animations, we can be more animated in our performances. But sometimes in an animation, they don't want them to be super. They don't want the cartoony sounds. They want them to sound realistic and personable and actually like a human being, you know, or like not a human being. They want them to sound more humanistic, and you're starting to see that a lot now with a lot of animations, especially in the indie scene. They want their characters to sound humanistic. They want realism. They don't want them to be super cartoony. They want them to be grounded. They want them to sound natural. So if you're putting a performance where something actually sounds like it could happen, like with Mitch, like, oh shit, like, don't throw my wrenches. What are you doing? Of course, someone's going to have that natural reaction if a wrench is thrown at their head. You're going to hit Jenny. Don't throw my wrenches. You almost hit Jenny. Oh, man. You add that stuff and you show that you're paying attention to that. Oh, it's going to stand out so much better to the casting director. And like that right there, I like where I'm already going with that, and I'll probably develop that a little bit more. And like I said, there's a few other things that you can mess with, like your cadence. I've mentioned that a few times. Your cadence is the rate at which you deliver your line. You follow a rhythmic pattern. So it's, okay, V, calm down. Stop throwing my wrenches. You can't expect everyone to match your wavelength. Sure, she's goofy, but it's charming in its own way. You see how like there's a little pattern when I'm reading that? That's what your cadence is. Like you're following a pattern. You're reading a specific way. And that can change all the time. You can also build up emotion. You can build up energy in your delivery. For this one, for the second take, this one, you're going to start off with a lot of high energy, right? And that's a good place to show your acting range. Start off in a high energy level. Okay, V, calm down. Whoa, stop throwing my wrenches. Collect yourself. Okay. I'm going to forget that you almost scratched Jenny. But you can't expect everyone to match your wavelength, and you bring the energy down. So you can start off low, like, with the first one, like, Vic, we don't doubt your capabilities. It's your teamwork we don't trust. Look, you can blow away the competition all day, but the moment you lose touch with the people around you, things will fall apart. You build it up, or you can bring it back down. It's knowing how to deliver lines in a specific way that make you stand out. And like I said, that's the whole point of auditioning. It's showcasing what you can do as a voice actor, what your acting range is, your emotional range, and what you can just provide in a grand scale of things for your casting director, okay? So, that is basically how you can approach a casting call and your auditions and make them work for you in a way where the casting director does not cross you off that list instantly. Remember, the name of the game for voice acting is audition, audition, audition. If you don't audition, you're not going to have any chances to voice in any projects. Get yourself out there. Like I said, we have Casting Call Club right here. There's Voice Acting Club, which was, I'm trying to blank on her name right now. But a fellow Newgrounder, she who's gone on to voice in so many animes and just a prolific voice actress now. I'm pissed I don't remember her name. I'm pretty sure somebody will bring it up. But and then of course, yes, it's Kira Buckland. Thank you. Um, Kira started a voice acting club. They have a Discord server. There's plenty of casting calls on there. Of course, utilize Newgrounds. I got my start on Newgrounds. Go to the voice acting forum. There's so many animators and game developers and even composers. Like, hey, I need a voice actor. Audition there and practice and get yourself out there. And don't be afraid to test the waters with these new techniques. You know, try to do what you can to stand out and make yourself known. If you're not auditioning, no one's going to know who you are. And if you don't audition, you're not going to get better at this. Practice makes perfect. It's an old saying. Practice makes perfect, but it's very true. If you're not practicing and trying to hone your craft, you're gonna suck. Let's be real. I still have. If you guys want to hear how shitty I was when I first started, go to my Newgrounds page, go to my audio submissions, and scroll all the way down. There's an audio submission from 2013. It's been 12 fucking years. And you listen to it and you're like, wow, Corey, you're shit. You're still shit, but that's way shitty. But the more work and effort you put into growing and building your craft, you know, you're only going to get better and better and better. So don't be afraid to take some acting courses in person. Go take improv classes because that's going to really help with your pre-life and post-life. And just improving with lines in general. Like I said, the audition lines are there for a reason. If they say, hey, don't improv, don't improv. Read the lines verbatim. But if they don't say that, improv, have fun, switch things up a little bit. Take one-on-one coaching courses. Some of the big names out there, oh my God. Like I said, I got to work with Daniel Ross. He's an Emmy-winning voice actor. He's the voice of Donald Duck for Disney for years. He's the voice of Grimace for McDonald's. He was Starscream in Transformers. I've done one-on-one coaching with him. Steve Bloom, who is Spike Spiegel, he has his own voiceover course. Richard Horvitz, Nancy Cartwright, she has a master class. But you look online for any voiceover like coaching courses. There's so many people out there, and it doesn't even need to be a big name. There's so many people out there who are capable of teaching you. I do one-on-one coaching. I will go through an acting technique with you that is it's utilized in all of voiceover. It can help you out tremendously. Take the one-on-one coaching courses. Take group sessions. Do like little seminars like this. Go to a panel and learn and practice and improve your craft. So I hope that all the information and the steps that I've given you tonight in this panel, in this class, encourage you to really try things differently in your next audition. And like I said, these steps aren't going to guarantee that you land your next role, but it will make you stand out. And getting to that short list is a huge deal. Like I said, in an ocean of thousands of voice actors trying their hand to be a voice actor now, you want to do what you can to be that spark to the casting director and be like, oh, that sounded cool. I'm writing Corey's name down. And then you get to 5 other voice actors and they re-listen like, oh yeah, Corey's the best. Boom, circle him. He's my next voice actor. He's voicing Mitch in my project for me. And that's ultimately what you want to happen. So, I know we're right at 8:15. I don't know if I had exactly an hour, but I can stay for a little bit longer and answer any questions if we have them. Yeah. Well, that's hard to determine from a voice actor side of things. We don't really get to see a lot of the times we don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff and know what's going on production wise unless they like really give you a look in. It's funny. I have so many people ask me how things are like, for the production side of Spooky Month. I'm like, I don't know shit. Palo gave me the lines, I recorded them, and I sent them in, and that was it. I don't know anything. One of the best ways to kind of figure out if creators are serious about the project they're putting together is, unfortunately, if it's paid or not. Someone's not going to pay you for your work if they're not going to follow through on the work. You go to Casting Call Club, and you can filter out paid projects to unpaid projects, and that's what I do. I filter out paid and unpaid, and I only audition for paid projects because I know they're serious about completing the job. They're not going to pay people to do the work. Why would they pay them to do the work if they're not going to try to finish the work and get the project released? So, in the grand scheme of things, you're not going to know unless they actually go through and finish the project. And I guess it's also knowing who you are working with. That's one of the cool things with that's one of the best things about Newgrounds is that you're working with people who are determined to get projects done and collaborate with people. I think maybe 90 to 95% of the projects I've worked for on Newgrounds have been completed. That's why I like to still do Newgrounds work, because people are determined to get their projects done and get them released. It's only been as of lately, there's maybe only a few people who just kind of ghost me after I send in my lines. Yeah, well, we'll get this taken care of, and you never hear from them. Or it's 3 years later and the project comes out oh, hey, I totally forgot about that. So it's kind of up in the air. You just be wary. You can be wary, but one of the best ways to kind of filter that out is kind of go for paid projects. But also just know who you're working with. If you're working with people who are, determined to put stuff out, work with them and get that practice in. Terry! Yeah, so I played baseball for the vast majority of my life, and when I was done with my baseball career, I wanted to get into broadcasting. I wanted to be a color commentator. I wanted to do play-by-play for baseball, and I did a little bit of that. But man, it doesn't translate. It's a form of voiceover. Don't get me wrong, it really is, but it doesn't really translate into character voiceover in animation and video games. But okay, so Clayton Kershaw is standing on the mound and he's getting his looks into the catcher, and he comes set, and the 1-1 pitch is in there for strike one, fastball on the inside part of the plate. Oh man, the batter had no idea what was coming his way. It's a completely different thing, but I loved play-by-play commentary. I got to do it just a little bit in college when I was doing my my graduate program, and then I've done podcasting on the side. And I've told this story before, but working on the Newgrounds podcast ultimately got me connected with Palo, and that's one of the reasons why I got to voice Bob in Spooky Month, was just from the podcast. So yeah, things can work out in any facet. Yeah, consistency with voices can be very tough. And that's why I have that step included when you're looking at the casting calls, to look at characters that you can voice. I look at Mitch, I'm like, yeah, that's a character I can voice, because I look at him, he's beefy, he's muscular, he's going to have, to me, a more medium to deep type voice, kind of maybe like a mixture. And that right there is going to allow me to work in a range that I can be consistent with 100% of the time. Knowing your voice is crucial when it comes to performing and choosing characters. I'm not going to choose I'm not going to choose a teenager and do, or a silly little kid voice and do this all the time, because, oh God, my voice is going to hate me. And I'm going to lose it after 30 minutes Trust me, I've done that before and never again because your voice is your main tool, and we kind of joked about it in the Discord server. I think it was Chroma said, "Oh, I got to take my cough drops after the class with Corey," but it's true. Like your voice. Your voice is your main piece of equipment. Like, you can have the best microphone, the best setup, the best, preamp or audio interface and recording program. You can have all the best equipment in the world, but if you mess up your voice, you're down and out for the count. And you have to wait until your voice recovers. And sometimes you can permanently damage your voice, and you may not be able to do a certain voice ever again. So when it comes to doing certain voices, choose the voices you know that you can perform for a long time. I mean, I know I've been doing a lot of Bob Velstup content on social and streaming stuff since the episode released because, I love the Spooky Month fan base. They've treated me well, and they love Bob. I have done 4 hours of streaming content. I played Pokemon as Bob for 4 hours. So imagine me just doing Bob's voice for 4 fucking hours. It gets tiring, but I can do Bob's voice for 4 hours consistently just because Bob's voice is more like in a natural range for me, and I can, like, really the only difference is I'm just doing an airy talk, and it doesn't, like, it gets my voice tired, but I can still do it for a long time. So just make sure you're focusing on working with characters that are in your wheelhouse that you can do for a certain time. And if you're doing an audition and you feel it's going to mess up with your voice, switch up the voice and try something different, or realize, this character's not in my wheelhouse. I got to try something different. Good question right there. What's a good description? Especially, like, specifically for auditions, I would say, see, that's kind of hard to tell. Like, if the casting director literally lays everything out for you, that is fantastic. The more information, the better. And like I said, if you're not getting really much information from a casting director, don't be afraid to reach out and ask them. If they're barely giving you anything, say, hey, do you have any more information I can go off of? Like, you're just saying that they're 23 years old, they're muscular, and they like a car. Do you have any more information I can kind of use? Like, if they're actually diving into their personality, like, for me, when I'm looking at, like, some people don't like to give the whole synopsis or breakdown of their project because it could reveal secrets that they're trying to, keep to themselves until they release it in the story later on. It's what I had to do with my casting call. I had to divulge some information so I didn't reveal the big secret. But when it comes to characters, the main things you want to know are personality traits. What makes them tick? What defines who they specifically are? Like, even with Mitch, it says he's very serious and by the book. Okay, yeah, it's only 2 personality traits, but hot damn, those are actually 2 very distinct traits. He's very serious. Serious tones, like, that's like, you can't decipher that anyway, and he's by the book. People who are stern and by the book, or they're very serious and by the book, you know that they don't put up with shit. And we also see that he has a little sister, so he's an older brother. Older brothers are very protective of their siblings, I don't have any younger siblings, but, my sister's older than me, but I was still protective of my sister. When it comes to siblings, you want to protect them and make sure they're okay. So knowing the personality of your characters is very, very important. Try to find out any characteristics, personality traits, relationships that they have, because that in turn is going to help shape your performance. And if they don't want to give you that, kind of base it off your own experiences in life. Very serious. Like, think about times you've been serious. Think of a time that you've been by the book where you just do it verbatim, rule by rule. Think about a relationship that you have with a sibling. If you have a horrible relationship with your siblings, then, well, look at your friends and see their relationship with their siblings and try to base it off of that. Take real life And that's the whole thing about acting. It's taking real life scenarios and applying it to your craft to bring those situations to life. So utilize any personality traits that you can. The more, the better. And if there isn't a lot, ask for them. Stan, I am doing fantastic. How are you, Stan? Got a lot of good things going on right now. Staying busy as always. Got some good projects coming up. One that I can't talk about, but I'm really, really excited about it. I'm kind of hoping it opens up some big doors for me in the future. Um, so it's, yeah, I wish I could talk about it more, and I will when the time comes. But I'm doing really well. I actually just landed a new job, like actual job, not voice acting job, like a new job, and then and yeah, and I'm starting to land more and more work. I'm hoping that this is the year where I can kind of just say, you know what, I don't need another job outside of this. I could do a full time. I could do voice acting full time. So I'm doing good, buddy, and I hope you're doing good too, Stan. Hell yeah, we ballin'. Like balls do. Yeah. The Audio Technica AT 2020. That's a very good mic. It's not like the best one out there, but it is a very good XLR mic. I know a lot of voice actors who use it. I think the Rode NRT1 is another good XLR mic that you can use. Myself, it's a very expensive one. It's the Neumann TLM 103. It's one that's used in a lot of studios around the nation just because of the quality. Um, Thanks, man. It took a while to pay off, but I finally paid it off. I paid it off this year finally. But yeah, like it's just know that the more you invest or the more you want your quality to sound better, you're gonna have to invest some decent money. But you can get away with it with like the Audio Technica, the AT 2020. Like I said, a lot of voice actors use it. It is a great mic. Sounds really good. And I think it's called the NRT one from Rode. Rode has some good mics. Um, I'm trying to think if Sennheiser has any XLR. Like they have there's a shotgun mic from I think it's Sennheiser. But shotgun mics are more so used for like commercial spots or audiobooks. It's literally you have to talk directly into it, whereas I have a condenser mic. It picks up audio like all over the room, whereas a shotgun mic you have to talk directly into the mic. If you turn a little bit to the left, it doesn't pick it up naturally. So yeah, those would be I would say the AT 2020 and the Rode NRT1 would be the ones that I suggest in picking up. Oh. Oh, thank you, Gotcha. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's one of the best things about Spooky Month is it's opened the doors to me connecting with fans in a way that I never thought I'd be able to. Like I haven't really got to meet anybody face to face yet, but people have seen me on socials and they reach out and say like, dude, you've been an inspiration. Like I want to get into voice acting because of it, and it really means a lot to me. When I got into voice acting, I didn't have anyone helping me out. It was just me kind of like trial and error and seeing what worked and didn't work. I have something like this where I could, you know, jump on a webinar and listen to somebody talk about voice acting. I had to learn everything on my own. So like being able to jump on panels over the last few years and give some wisdom on where you can start in voice acting and how to improve in your craft, I mean, it means the world. So I love being an inspiration to people in their own voice acting journeys, like so many voice actors have been for me. And yeah, it's awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you guys wanted me back for another year. it's always fun doing the Newgrounds Fest. I love them, and I love Newgrounds. Newgrounds for life, baby. Woo! No ground rule. No ground rule. Everything, everyone. Everything by everyone. I love it.